The morning of February 5th, 2022, brought an unusual energy to Sandringham House. Queen Elizabeth II stood at the grand windows of her private sitting room, watching as groundskeepers prepared the estate for what would become one of her most memorable pre-Jubilee gatherings. The 95-year-old monarch had decided to host an intimate celebration, bringing together family, close friends, and trusted staff members who had served the crown faithfully over the decades. Her Majesty wore a vibrant blue dress with pearl accessories, her signature style that had remained consistent throughout her 70-year reign. The choice was deliberate. Blue had always been considered her power color, and today she wanted to project strength and continuity as she prepared for the upcoming Platinum Jubilee celebrations that would mark her historic milestone. Lady Susan Hussey, her longtime lady-in-waiting, entered the room carrying a leather portfolio filled with carefully handwritten invitations. The Queen had personally selected each guest, choosing people who had played significant roles in her life and reign. Unlike the grand state occasions that filled much of her calendar, this gathering would be refreshingly personal and relaxed. Your Majesty, the final arrangements have been confirmed, Lady Susan reported with a warm smile. The kitchen staff are preparing your favorite afternoon tea selections, and the musicians have arrived for their sound check in the ballroom. The Queen nodded approvingly, her eyes twinkling with anticipation. She had specifically requested traditional British fare for the occasion: cucumber sandwiches, scones with clotted cream and jam, Victoria sponge cake, and Earl Grey tea served in the finest Royal Crown Derby china. These simple pleasures had sustained her through countless official events, and she wanted her guests to experience the genuine warmth of royal hospitality. Among the invited guests were several members of her extended family who rarely appeared at public events. Her cousin, the Duke of Gloucester, would attend with his wife, bringing stories from their recent charitable work. Princess Alexandra, another beloved cousin, had traveled from London specifically for this gathering, carrying with her decades of shared memories and family traditions. The Queen had also invited longtime friend from the racing world, including her bloodstock and racing advisor, John Warren, and several horse trainers who had helped her build one of the most successful racing stables in British history. These relationships had provided her with joy and normalcy throughout her reign, offering conversations about breeding lines, race strategies, and the simple pleasure of watching magnificent horses compete. Perhaps most importantly, she had extended invitations to members of her household staff who had served her faithfully for years. Her head groom, her personal dresser, the head gardener, and several protection officers would join the celebration as honored guests rather than working staff. This gesture reflected her deep appreciation for the people who had made her daily life possible, while maintaining the highest standards of service and discretion. As the afternoon approached, the Queen walked through Sandringham's beautifully appointed rooms, personally checking arrangements and ensuring every detail met her exacting standards. The house, which had been her private retreat for more than 60 years, held countless memories of family gatherings, quiet moments of reflection, and important decisions that had shaped the modern monarchy. In the white drawing room, staff had arranged fresh flowers from the estate's gardens, white roses, purple heather, and yellow daffodils that created a cheerful and welcoming atmosphere. The Queen paused to adjust one arrangement slightly, her practiced, eye-catching details that others might miss. These small acts of personal attention had always been characteristic of her approach to royal duties. The ballroom had been transformed into an elegant reception space, with comfortable seating areas that encouraged intimate conversations rather than formal presentations. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over polished wood floors, creating an atmosphere of relaxed sophistication that balanced royal grandeur with genuine warmth. As 3 o'clock approached, the Queen took her position in the entrance hall, ready to personally greet each arriving guest. This traditional gesture, which she had performed thousands of times throughout her reign, never felt routine to her. Each encounter represented an opportunity to connect personally with people who had contributed to her life and work. The sound of car engines in the gravel driveway signaled the arrival of her first guests, and The Queen's face lit up with genuine pleasure. Today would be about celebration, reflection, and gratitude as she prepared to mark the unprecedented achievement of 70 years on the British throne. The first car to arrive carried the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, followed closely by Princess Alexandra in her distinctive burgundy coat. The Queen stepped forward to greet each guest personally, exchanging warm embraces and genuine smiles that revealed her excitement about the afternoon ahead. These were not the formal receiving line greetings of state occasions, but the natural interactions of family members and old friends reuniting. John Warren, her racing advisor, arrived with fascinating news about potential acquisitions for the royal stables. His animated discussion with the Queen about bloodlines and racing prospects immediately drew several other guests into their conversation. The Queen's knowledge of horse breeding and racing statistics often surprised people who only knew her public persona, but those close to her understood that this passion represented one of her few genuine escapes from royal duties. The head gardener, accompanied by his wife, brought photographs of new plantings planned for the upcoming spring season. The Queen examined each image carefully, asking detailed questions about soil conditions, expected bloom times, and how the new additions would complement existing garden designs. Her expertise in horticulture, developed over decades of personal involvement in estate management, impressed even experienced professionals. In the white drawing room, conversations flowed easily between guests who might not otherwise have opportunities to interact. Protection officers found themselves discussing travel experiences with members of the royal family, while household staff shared stories with racing professionals about the Queen's daily routines and personal preferences. These informal exchanges created unexpected connections and mutual understanding among people from very different backgrounds. The Queen moved gracefully between groups, demonstrating the social skills that had made her an effective monarch for 7 decades. She possessed a remarkable ability to remember personal details about each guest's life and work, asking specific questions about children, grandchildren, recent achievements, and ongoing challenges. This genuine interest in others had always been one of her greatest strengths as a leader and host. When afternoon tea was announced, guests moved into the dining room where an impressive spread awaited them. The royal chefs had prepared traditional favorites alongside some contemporary additions, creating a menu that honored both heritage and evolution. The Queen personally served tea to several elderly guests, a gesture that spoke volumes about her character and values. During the meal, stories and memories began flowing freely. Princess Alexandra recounted amusing incidents from recent royal tours, while the Duke of Gloucester shared observations about changing charitable landscapes and new approaches to royal patronage. These conversations provided valuable insights into the evolving nature of modern monarchy and the challenges facing the institution in contemporary society. The Queen listened intently to each story, occasionally adding her own perspectives or gentle corrections when memories differed. Her exceptional recall of dates, names, and specific details amazed her guests and demonstrated the sharp mental acuity that had served her well throughout her long reign. Even at 95, she remained fully engaged with current events and ongoing responsibilities. One particularly touching moment occurred when her personal dresser, who had worked at Buckingham Palace for more than 30 years, presented the Queen with a small leather-bound photo album. The collection contained candid photographs taken during private moments over the years, the Queen feeding her corgis, examining flowers in palace gardens, laughing with staff members during informal occasions. These images captured aspects of her personality rarely seen by the public. As the afternoon progressed, the atmosphere became increasingly relaxed and joyful. Guests who had initially maintained formal courtesy began sharing more personal anecdotes and expressing genuine affection for the Queen and each other. The gathering demonstrated the strong relationships that had sustained the monarchy through various challenges and changes over recent decades. The Queen announced that entertainment would begin shortly in the ballroom, where local musicians had prepared a special program combining traditional British folk music with contemporary pieces. She had specifically requested music that would appeal to guests of all ages and backgrounds, creating an inclusive experience that reflected her democratic approach to personal relationships. Before moving to the ballroom, she took a few moments to speak privately with several elderly guests who might find the extended standing difficult. Her thoughtfulness in considering everyone's comfort and ensuring their full participation in the afternoon's activities reflected the caring leadership style that had earned respect and affection throughout her reign. The ballroom at Sandringham had been transformed into an intimate concert venue, with comfortable chairs arranged in a semicircle around a small performance area. The Queen had chosen local musicians from Norfolk who specialized in traditional British folk music, believing that authentic regional talent would create the perfect atmosphere for her pre-Jubilee celebration. The lead musician, a violinist named Margaret Thornton, had performed at several royal events over the years and understood exactly the type of program that would resonate with the assembled guests. As everyone settled into their seats, the Queen chose to sit in the front row alongside her staff members rather than in a separate royal section. This deliberate choice reinforced the egalitarian spirit she wanted to establish for the afternoon. Her racing advisor found himself seated next to the head gardener's wife, while Princess Alexandra engaged in animated conversation with one of the protection officers about his recent holiday in Scotland. The musical program opened with Green Sleeves, a traditional English ballad that had been performed at royal occasions for centuries. The haunting melody filled the elegant ballroom, creating an atmosphere of reflection and continuity that seemed particularly appropriate as the Queen prepared to mark her unprecedented 70 years on the throne. Several guests closed their eyes, allowing the familiar tune to transport them to earlier memories of royal celebrations and personal milestones. Margaret Thornton then introduced a piece called "The Water is Wide," explaining that it represented the journey across time and challenges that had characterized the Queen's remarkable reign. The song's themes of perseverance and faith resonated deeply with the assembled group, many of whom had witnessed firsthand the Queen's steadfast dedication through periods of both triumph and difficulty. During a brief intermission, the Queen surprised her guests by sharing some personal reflections about music's role in her life. She spoke about singing hymns with her sister Margaret during their childhood, about the wedding music she had chosen for her marriage to Prince Philip, and about lullabies she had sung to her children and grandchildren. These intimate details revealed aspects of her personality that few people had ever heard her discuss publicly. Music has always provided comfort during difficult times and enhanced joy during celebrations, she observed, her voice carrying the weight of 7 decades of experience. Today's performance reminds me of the continuity that connects us across generations and the shared heritage that makes us who we are as a nation and as individuals. The second half of the program featured more contemporary pieces, including compositions by modern British composers that reflected the evolution of the country during the Queen's reign. One particularly moving selection honored the memory of Prince Philip, incorporating musical themes from pieces he had enjoyed during their 67 years of marriage. The Queen's eyes glistened as the melody unfolded, but she maintained her characteristic composure while clearly appreciating this thoughtful tribute to her late husband. John Warren, sitting nearby, noticed the Queen's emotional response and quietly placed his hand over hers in a gesture of support and understanding. Their long friendship, built through shared passion for horses and racing, had created bonds that transcended formal royal protocols. These moments of human connection had always been precious to the Queen, providing stability and authenticity in a life often dominated by official obligations. The musical program concluded with Rule Britannia, performed with particular enthusiasm by both musicians and audience members. The Queen joined in the singing, her voice strong and clear despite her age, demonstrating the vigor and determination that had characterized her entire reign. The rousing finale brought everyone to their feet in spontaneous applause and celebration. After the performance, The Queen personally thanked each musician, engaging them in detailed conversations about their training, their other performances, and their perspectives on traditional British music's continued relevance in contemporary society. Her genuine interest in their artistic work and personal lives impressed the musicians, who had expected a more formal interaction with the monarch. As guests mingled following the concert, conversations naturally turned to memories of other musical occasions during the Queen's reign. Princess Alexandra recalled elaborate state banquets where international orchestras had performed for visiting heads of state, while household staff shared stories about the Queen's private enjoyment of military band performances and Highland dancing demonstrations during family gatherings at Balmoral Castle. The afternoon's musical interlude had achieved exactly what the Queen had hoped, creating shared experiences and emotional connections that would strengthen the bonds between all participants. The combination of traditional and contemporary music had honored the past while acknowledging the present, reflecting the balanced approach that had characterized our monarchy throughout its historic duration. Following the musical performance, the Queen guided her guests back to the White Drawing Room, where evening refreshments had been prepared. The transition from afternoon tea to early dinner reflected her understanding that many elderly guests would prefer to complete their journey home before darkness fell across the Norfolk countryside. The careful timing demonstrated the thoughtful planning that characterized all royal occasions, regardless of their scale or formality. The conversation during this final gathering phase took on a more reflective and intimate tone. The Duke of Gloucester shared memories of his childhood interactions with the Queen during family gatherings at Windsor Castle, describing her transformation from a serious young princess into the confident monarch she had become. His stories revealed aspects of her personality development that few people had observed firsthand, particularly her growing comfort with public speaking and her evolving understanding of constitutional responsibilities. Princess Alexandra contributed fascinating details about royal tours during the 1960s and 1970s, when travel was more challenging and cultural differences seemed more pronounced than in the contemporary connected world. She recalled the Queen's patience during lengthy ceremonial events in tropical climates, her genuine curiosity about different customs and traditions, and her remarkable ability to communicate warmth and respect despite language barriers and complex protocol requirements. The head gardener found himself engaged in an unexpected conversation with John Warren about the environmental challenges facing both royal estates and racing facilities in the era of climate change. Their discussion attracted the Queen's attention, and she joined them to share her own observations about changing weather patterns affecting agricultural activities at Sandringham and Balmoral. Her detailed knowledge of soil conditions, rainfall patterns, and seasonal variations impressed even the professional horticulturist. One of the protection officers, emboldened by the relaxed atmosphere, asked the Queen about her perspectives on how security arrangements had evolved during her reign. She responded thoughtfully, acknowledging the necessity of increased precautions while expressing regret about the loss of spontaneous public interactions that had once been possible. Her balanced view of security requirements versus public accessibility revealed her deep understanding of the complex relationship between modern monarchy and democratic society. The Queen's personal dresser shared amusing stories about travel wardrobe challenges during overseas visits, describing the careful planning required to ensure appropriate attire for multiple climate zones, cultural sensitivities, and unexpected schedule changes. The Queen added her own memories of particularly challenging costume requirements, including heavy ceremonial robes in extreme heat and elaborate headpieces that required careful engineering to remain secure during windy outdoor ceremonies. As the afternoon light began to fade outside the tall windows, the conversation naturally turned to the upcoming Platinum Jubilee celebrations planned for June 2022. The Queen expressed both excitement and some apprehension about the extensive program being planned, acknowledging her awareness that this would likely be her final major Jubilee celebration. Her candid admission of physical limitations, balanced with determination to fulfill her duties, touched everyone present. Several guests offered personal assistance with various aspects of the Jubilee preparations. The musicians proposed organizing a special concert featuring traditional music from all regions of the United Kingdom, while the Racing Connections suggested incorporating equestrian elements that would showcase her lifelong passion. These spontaneous offers of support demonstrated the genuine affection and loyalty that the Queen had inspired throughout her reign. The Queen listened carefully to each suggestion, taking mental notes and occasionally asking for clarification about practical details. Her continued engagement with planning and decision-making, despite her advanced age, impressed everyone present and reinforced their confidence in her ongoing capabilities. She remained fully committed to making the Jubilee celebrations memorable for the entire nation. During a quiet moment, the Queen privately thanked Lady Susan Hussey for organizing such a perfect afternoon. Her gratitude extended beyond the practical arrangements to appreciation for understanding exactly the type of gathering that would provide both personal satisfaction and meaningful preparation for the challenges ahead. These trusted relationships had been crucial to her success as a monarch and as an individual. The atmosphere remained warm and convivial as guests gradually began preparing for their departures. The Queen personally escorted each person to the entrance hall, continuing conversations and making specific plans for future meetings. Her energy and enthusiasm, despite having hosted for several hours, demonstrated the stamina and dedication that had characterized her entire approach to royal duties. As the last guests departed Sandringham House, their cars disappearing into the gathering Norfolk twilight, Queen Elizabeth II stood in the entrance hall, reflecting on what had been a truly exceptional afternoon. The carefully orchestrated gathering had achieved everything she had hoped, strengthening personal relationships, creating lasting memories, and providing her with renewed energy and confidence as she prepared for the monumental Platinum Jubilee celebrations that lay ahead. Lady Susan Hussey joined the Queen in the entrance hall, both women feeling the satisfied exhaustion that follows a successful social occasion. They had worked together for decades, developing an intuitive understanding of what would make royal events both meaningful and memorable. Today's gathering represented their collaborative skills at their finest, combining formal protocol with genuine warmth and personal touches that elevated the occasion beyond a mere social obligation. The Queen walked slowly through the rooms where her guests had gathered, pausing to examine flower arrangements that had been slightly disturbed during animated conversations, straightening cushions that bore the impressions of elderly visitors, and collecting forgotten reading glasses that would need to be returned to their absent-minded owner. These small domestic details, which might seem mundane to observers, represented precious evidence of real human connections that had been forged during the afternoon. In the ballroom, staff members were quietly dismantling the musical equipment while maintaining the respectful silence that had always characterized their professional approach. The Queen stopped to thank each worker personally, inquiring about their families and expressing genuine appreciation for their contributions to the day's success. Her democratic treatment of all people, regardless of their position or status, had been a consistent characteristic throughout her reign and remained unchanged even in these intimate private moments. As she returned to her private sitting room, the Queen discovered that John Warren had left behind a leather portfolio containing photographs and documents related to potential racehorse acquisitions. She settled into her favorite armchair to examine the materials, finding herself genuinely excited about the prospects for the upcoming racing season. These moments of pure personal pleasure had sustained her through 7 decades of royal responsibilities and continued to provide joy and anticipation even at 95. The telephone rang, interrupting her review of the racing documents. Prince Charles was calling from Clarence House to inquire about the afternoon's gathering and to discuss final details for several upcoming Jubilee events. The Queen provided a warm account of her guests' enthusiasm and their spontaneous offers of assistance with various celebration activities. Her conversation with her son revealed the deep satisfaction she felt about maintaining close personal relationships despite the formal constraints of her official position. After completing her telephone conversation, the Queen walked to her desk to write personal thank you notes to each guest who had attended the gathering. Her handwritten correspondence, a practice she had maintained throughout her reign despite the availability of more efficient communication methods, represented her commitment to personal touch and individual recognition. Each note would include specific references to conversations and shared moments from the afternoon. Outside her windows, the Sandringham estate was settling into evening tranquility. Security personnel were conducting their routine patrols, groundskeepers were securing equipment used for the day's preparations, and household staff were completing their cleaning and preparation tasks for the following day. The Queen could observe all this activity from her private vantage point, feeling deep satisfaction about the smooth coordination that had made the afternoon possible. As she prepared for dinner, the Queen reflected on how the gathering had reinforced her optimism about the upcoming Jubilee celebrations. The enthusiasm and affection demonstrated by her guests had reminded her that public support for the monarchy remained strong, despite various challenges and criticisms that had emerged during recent years. Their willingness to contribute time and effort to making the Jubilee successful represented the kind of voluntary cooperation that had always been essential to constitutional monarchy's effectiveness. Before retiring for the evening, the Queen spent a few minutes reviewing her schedule for the following days. Official obligations would soon resume, but today's gathering had provided exactly the personal renewal and emotional support she had needed. The combination of family warmth, professional expertise, and genuine friendship had created an afternoon that would remain treasured in her memory regardless of whatever challenges lay ahead. The success of this intimate Sandringham gathering had proven once again that the most meaningful royal occasions often occurred away from public scrutiny, when genuine relationships could flourish without media attention or formal protocol. As the Queen prepared for bed that evening, she felt profound gratitude for the people who had shared this special day and renewed confidence about celebrating her remarkable 70-year reign with the entire nation in the months to come.